Hi Fixer family, it's Charmin. Welcome to Fixin' To. Now here's what we're going to need to get started on this project. The first thing is, of course, I'm using a piece of poplar wood that is 13 by 8 by 3/4 for my particular house number sign. I'm going to be using these gallon size paint stirrers. You get 10 in a pack, and I went ahead and grabbed 2 of them to make sure that I had enough. With my size, I probably could have got away with 1, but it really depends on your size. If you're, how many numbers that you're going to be using will also determine how big your piece of wood will be. Now the numbers I'm using are these metal 5-inch numbers. I picked these up at Home Depot. You can mount them flush, or you can also raise them, and that's what we're going to be doing with these numbers. We're also going to be using our Rust-Oleum decorative glaze in the color Java Brown. We're going to be also adhering these cut pieces of the paint stirrers with my liquid nails and a little bit of hot glue. So of course the first thing I did was have to kind of measure out. It gets a little bit tedious, but I promise you it is well worth it in the end. And I also numbered each one of my rows. Each piece in the first row, I put a number 1 on it. And then on my second row, I put a number 2 on the back of it, and so on and so forth, so that I made sure that I was able to get the same pieces that I cut back in the same places. I also used the edges of the wood, the bottom piece of wood, to create my straight edges so that I could get them good and level. And then I also, once I started putting them on there, I did leave spaces in between each piece on the row. But then I will butt them up together as I'm placing the next row, and doing that so on and so forth as you go down and adhering all of these. But you'll see why I left those little spaces in between. It really does give it a rustic type of look to it. It all, kind of a more farmhouse rustic feel and tile look to it. I think you'll see exactly what I'm talking about as we're putting this together. So we're going to just go ahead and start putting our adhesive on here. And like I said, I am using liquid nail. You can get it in a smaller tube. This is just some stuff that I had left over from a previous project, but this will adhere. But we're also going to be using our hot glue to give us that short-term hold with the hot glue, because it dries super fast, and the long-term hold will come from the liquid nails as it sets. When you first put it on there, you want to kind of stick it down, move it around back and forth, and then lift it off of there. Give it a few seconds to kind of get a little tackiness there, and then you can add your hot glue to the either side, it doesn't matter, and then place it back down on there, and make sure that you got it set and level. And you just keep going, and we're going to do this all the way across, and then adding each row as we go. Now for me, my bottom row was just a little bit too wide, and I wanted to trim it off to make sure that it was pretty flush at the bottom. And I wanted to show you this super easy trick that you would just take your paint stirrer, mark your spot where you want it to be cut off. Using a utility knife, I scored it several times, kind of pushing down pretty hard each time I scored it. Then I took a pair of wire pliers, or you can use any type of pliers, and then just kind of worked it all the way up and all the way back down until it finally pops off and it gives you a pretty even straight edge there. And if it's a little bit off and a little rough spots, then just use a piece of sandpaper to clean it right up. Well, Fixer family, I wanted to jump in here really quick to first off tell you guys thank you so much for all of your prayers for my mom during this recovery time that we're going through. She's doing really good, and we're hoping that she will be home from the hospital really soon. So again, thank you so much. And for those of you that don't know, my mom had double bypass surgery last week, and she is in recovery now. She's been moved to a room, and we're believing to have her home in the next day or two. So thank you so much for all of your prayers. They were definitely felt. Also, I wanted to let you guys know that today's video is the first video in a series that I'm going to be doing called My Front Entryway Makeover. Now, this is my front entrance into my home. We got a new door, and I'm wanting to make this area kind of pop and come alive. Now, I do not have a porch, and this is a very small entryway, so I wanted to do some things to kind of show you, because I have looked and looked for different things to do to be able to make this entryway, I guess, kind of more interesting, and like I said, to pop and come alive. So I'm going to be sharing a few projects over the next couple of weeks to hopefully give you inspiration so that you also can take maybe some of these ideas for your porches, or maybe you have a small entryway to your home as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump back into this fun project. Now that we have all of our wood pieces attached and everything is good and secured on there, we are ready to stain. And super simple, I used a foam paintbrush, and I wiped it on there and then brushed it on there, wiped it off until I got the desired color and that I wanted, and coverage and everything, and did this on of course the biggest surface and the flat surface. Once I did that, then I took a small paintbrush, and all of those spaces in between each pieces of the wood, you could see the unfinished wood underneath it. And so we wanted to go ahead and give it the stain on there. But what that does also, as you can see, it is starting to really pull out the detail of how we put this together. And to me, that really made it give it that rustic look as well as a tiled look. I then went around all four edges and stained them the same way I did the top. I didn't worry about the back because you're not going to see it at all. So we did this, wiped off the excess, and then let it dry. Now, once it dried overnight, I then took this Krylon clear glaze. It's kind of a thick crystal looking color. It's kind of a high sheen on it. But I used this to spray all over the front, on all four sides, and the back, because we want to protect this because it will be out in the elements. Now, these numbers that I'm using here, they come, of course, they're the metal numbers, and they come with some hardware with it. Now, these two little things can be used if you're going to be just putting the numbers right into concrete or brick. And we have the little I don't know what really you call these. I mean, they're threaded, but they're not really screws. And then of course you have the little spacers. But now we're not going to be using those anchors. We're going to be using the little screws and also the anchors. And one side is flat and one side has a little point to it. And you just screw it into the holes that are provided onto your numbers. The flat side anyway, and then you'll have the little pointed side, and I use those to my advantage. Once I got a good level spot at the bottom, using my ruler here to make sure that I had it exactly where I want the bottom of these to go, I placed it on my wood where I wanted them and spaced apart, and then I took and pressed down to make little indentions in the wood so that we knew exactly where we're going to be drilling holes. So I'm just using my little drill here with my drill bit that fits these screws, and we're just going to drill all the way through. So I took some scrap wood and placed it on either side of it to lift it up, and then began to make my holes. Now anything that pulls up, we can touch it up with no problem to make sure that we, don't have any raw wood showing. So now we're ready to place on our little spacers. And what I did, now of course these did fit really tight, but I wanted to make sure they do not come out. So I'm going to be using some E6000 glue and also hot glue, again, as I've used with the wood, short-term, long-term holds here. And gonna put just a little dab of the E6000 on one side of the little screw, and then a little dab of the hot glue on the other side. And once you get it down in there, and like I said, this was a little, snug, so I pushed it down in there as far as I could get it, and then I took a little piece of scrap wood that you kind of see over there to the left-hand side, and I used my hammer, laying it on top of the number, just to kind of tap it in and make sure that it's in there good and secure, wiping off any excess. So now we're ready to put hangers on the back of these, and these are just super simple. I picked these up at Walmart. They're called push pin type hangers. I don't know, but anyway, I use a hammer. But anyway, these are the hangers that I use on my vinyl siding. I got these from Amazon. I'll make sure that I link them down below for you. But you just slip them up in your vinyl siding and it holds really, really well. So I'm so excited to be able to use these. Now, in order to hang my hangers, I went from the side in 2 inches and then down from the top down 2 inches. Marked it at center there, and then that's where I'm going to put my hangers. I centered up my little hangers on the mark, making a little mark, kind of pushing them in a little bit to make sure that I get them as level as I can, eyeballing it. And then I'm just going to take my little hammer and go ahead and hammer these down on both sides, and then we are ready to hang these. It just made me so happy to be able to do something like this. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed this project as much as I did, and you drew some inspiration on how to create something like this for your home. I'm so excited to be able to hang this on my vinyl siding without having to put any kind of holes in there, and it really does pop and make a statement where it is. Now, don't forget that if you haven't already done so, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and become a part of the Fixer family. We would love to have you. Also, make sure that you hit that notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload new videos. I would hate for you to miss a single video in this series or future videos to come. I'm so glad that y'all joined me today. And again, thank you so much for your prayers and your thoughts and your words of encouragement as my family has gone through this unexpected thing that we had to deal with my mom. We are so glad that she's doing well. And again, your prayers were truly felt. And I want you to know, if no one has told you today, you are amazing. And always remember to keep looking up, because that's where it all is. I'll see you on the next video.